just do two, one putt, putt for a birdie, woohoo, new driver info, replace M2, putt 5, fairway, what you fin do? Think I'll try to get on into, start right, good line, good view, it drew, shooter McGavin, 2 thumbs that's up high and 2 fingers pointed.
The green jacket is going north of the border. Mike Weir has won the Masters.
That I'm playing. Sometimes these part 3 green look like an island. A plane train to keep it on dry land. At least I might try, man. Up with the 5 and might use the trap, man. I got a check, man. Lines ain't go ball speed. Rated that batsman and where that ball land. Watch that.
Welcome to On the Screws podcast. We're about 45 minutes into this chat now, Ryan. How are you doing? Figured we'd turn on the mic and record something for everybody here. So, Ryan Gregnol. We're going to talk a lot about long drive. So this is the 2020 Canadian Long Drive Champion. So Ryan, thanks for coming on. I know you got like a powerlifting background, which is something I've kind of been into as well. So really looking forward to this chat, and thanks for taking the time. And finally we get the mic on. So tell us about yourself, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So let's hop right into it, because this is a golf podcast. So part of that is long drive, and we've had a couple people on who have chatted about long drive and whatnot in the past. So maybe you can just tell me kind of about you growing up, when you kind of fell in love with the game. Was it just golf before, or did you kind of get right into long drive?
So I'm 38, so let's knock back a few years, and I mean, 97 was Tiger's big coming out party.
Yeah.
That was kind of the first event I taped on VHS, which some of the listeners won't even know what that is.
Absolutely not. My cousin's listening to this right now, and he's thinking, like, what is VHS? VHS? Yeah.
I taped the whole 97 Masters podcast on VHS and literally watched it religiously until the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup in Valderrama was the next thing that I taped.
Yeah.
Obviously, an awesome Ryder Cup to tape. So that was kind of my year that I started. I got a set of clubs maybe a year or two before that. Didn't really care. Didn't take it too seriously. Then I got a set of blades for Christmas that year. Somehow my dad thought I should just jump right into those. And I would start taking swings outside, kind of chipping ice off of the snow that was shoveled back home in Nipigon. And then, yeah, somehow, some way, the distance showed up through just swinging and watching. And like I became a little like obsessed kid. Like, we got the Golf Channel that year in my hometown, and it was kind of a nonstop thing. There was me and a bunch of guys, and we'd play games around the putting green, and we'd have long drive competitions just for fun. And we'd hawk balls all day. Basically, our parents would drop us off at 8, 9 o'clock and pick us up. Our dads would get off work from the mill at 5:30. They'd play 9, and then we'd hop in the car at 8 or 9 o'clock. Because I mean, up in Nipigon, Thunder Bay area, we get daylight until almost 11. So
nice.
You could literally play midsummer until 10:30.
Twilight 9 is a real thing up there. Emergency 9 on top of the Twilight 9 too, right?
Like you literally peg it up at 7:45 and have a cart, and you're still whipping out 9, no problem.
Awesome, that's awesome. So
yeah, that was really the start. Was 97, and that was just golf. But that was kind of how it all kicked off.
Right on. Right into the blades too. No game improvement irons. No.
And there were those old TaylorMade, the original TaylorMade, like True Preferred cushion.
They've got like that old orange on them and like the bubble. Yeah.
It wasn't like I stepped in slowly. It was like, okay, figure it out. My hands got sore, and that was pretty normal for a while.
Yeah, for sure. And then you start finding the middle of the club face, right? So I was kind of checking out your bio and stuff a little bit, and so you started when you were about 14, and by 16 you were already hitting the ball over 300 yards. Is that true?
Yeah.
Man,
it was that. Like I said, it was just that Tiger time, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
The small course I was at, so I mean, a junior membership was $100. There's no tee times. Play as many times as you want in a day. We had seniors Tuesday mornings, men's Wednesday nights, but by 16 I could play in the men's. I wasn't that good. I probably 8, 9 handicap by then. Yeah. But
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
They didn't care because I could hit it, so I wasn't slowing the group down or anything, right?
Right.
But yeah, we got a driving range, and I think I broke 2 or 3 drivers at the Hosel my first year when I first started actually trying to hit the ball, because like it was the Tiger thing.
All right, so let's pause the golf, because we're gonna get obviously, right, like we're gonna get into that. So let's talk about some of your weightlifting background. Like I said, it was a passion of mine growing up. Our guy Chris Bailey that was on last week, he's a musician. He's had a bit of a like a competitive CrossFit and bodybuilding background. So we were chatting about that. So everybody would be on here kind of is aware of fitness in the game is kind of
Right.
so important right now, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. So you've been into competitive powerlifting.
Yep. Yeah, I did that for about 2 years.
Okay.
2017 and 18. I always worked out. Like I was
Right.
one of those, had the Flex magazines, had the bodybuilding, whatever, the muscular developments, and I remember I moved out of an apartment when I was like 25, and I had to go to the dump just to get rid of all these magazines that I had stacked up because I couldn't bring them with me anymore because there's so many of them.
Yeah, fun fact about me is I was a forum administrator for some time on muscular development, man.
There you go.
So I'm very familiar with those sites. Loved bodybuilding. Had a little
Yeah.
supplement company with my brother when I was younger. My training partner didn't get his pro card, but he finished second in the CBBF Nationals, like I was mentioning to you earlier. So loved it. Had a huge home gym, so that's cool. So tell me a little bit more. So what like you were saying, you're like a big deadlifter, and
So it was kind of like whenever I was training, I wasn't golfing.
Right.
And then whenever I got away from training, I was then golfing again. So I never really utilized the training into the golfing. But at that point, I didn't feel like I needed to. Like
Okay.
I was, I always hit it far enough. It wasn't a case of hitting it further. It was playing better because I wasn't really into long drive yet. And then that's where, I started long drive in 2008, and then got on and off of it from, logistics standpoint was really the biggest reason.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then fell into powerlifting because I'm a competitive person and I needed something to do.
Yeah, we all kind of need that something to do, right? That's why in the off season started up the podcast, and right now, like whereabouts are you living right now, right?
Kitchener.
Okay, so no golf for you either right now. So
No. I got
this-
one round in.
I got a few. I got one full 18 and then a few nines. So it'd be nice to kind of get back out on the course because I'm playing some new irons and stuff this year. So
Nice.
I definitely want to get back out on the course as much as I can. So did you find, like you had mentioned that you would go from powerlifting and, working out to those types of extremes to then trying to swing a golf club. So you kind of felt like locked up. So you didn't really find a benefit in either one, or did you find as you loosen up, you like the mass that you carry, does those kind of fast twitch fibers and stuff, do they help with your golf swing? Like I know I've had an athletic therapist on here before. I'm taking a course of his right now, focusing solely on the golf swing, or kind of working on a lot of core muscles to help the golf swing. And like a power lifter would be like his nightmare when it comes to a golf swing. So how did the two work together? Was there any harmony, or was it just like opposites?
At the time there wasn't. I was strictly doing like the 3 lifts, right? Like I do a couple accessory movements here and there, but even the accessory movements, there wasn't any rotation involved in any of those.
Right.
Like as you know, from like a squat, bench, and deadlift standpoint,
Yeah.
you kind of want to be like this as much as possible. You don't want any shifting of anything.
Yeah.
So the nice part was I had a strong core. Like that wasn't an issue. It just didn't like to move.
Right.
It helped, but it didn't. But then it did.
Yeah.
So once you get strong to a point, it kind of stays. Certain things stay with you.
Yeah.
Like that's, like I can walk away from powerlifting and then you give me 3 or 4 weeks and I'll go and deadlift 500 pounds, no problem. Like even to this day, that's not going to be something difficult for me. Certain lifts are a little like bench press, like we talked about, like a little more difficult for me to jump back into like that. But a deadlift, those are tons of golf muscles, right? Posterior chain like crazy.
Yep.
So that's kind of like having that will always be good. And that's never, and I'm sure with age, it'll kind of dissipate as I get older. But right now at 38, it's always there. I have a gym in my basement that we put in because of COVID and we had nothing else to do. So we spent a couple $1,000s putting in a rack, buying a power bar, 800, 900 pounds in plates, something like that. But it's the mobility is going to be for me. And as I got better in long drive, that's what I focused on. It was, The strength and the power were kind of always there for me. It was the length of my swing, the amount of it could produce. As soon as I figured that out, everything started to come together.
Yeah, like for me, same type of thing. Like I used to have a home gym. I had a couple thousand pounds of plates, a squat rack, leg press, dumbbells up to like 125. Like I still carry a lot of size. Like I'm not that tall. I'm like 5'10", like I was saying, 5'9", 5'10". Like I'm a big guy. Like you can tell I've been into weightlifting in the past. I carry like a lot of triple bogeys in my belly now though. So, but yeah, like I found that I could not do the two well together at all. Like I stopped playing golf while I got into bodybuilding and
Yep.
powerlifting and stuff in the past, and had some injuries unfortunately on my back, which is why I'm kind of doing some of these courses now to try and improve pretty much just flexibility and mobility with the strength, right? So you mentioned that once you kind of figured it out, so you get back into long drive. Now, what's it like for anybody listening? I'm sure there's not many pro long drivers listening to this one right now, but a lot of people that are golfing, because we're all fascinated, right? Like we're all fascinated with club head speed, and we're fascinated with hitting the ball longer. So we might never get to one of these events as a competitor. So maybe you can share what it would be like when Ryan gets up, go in the morning, he's headed to one of the events, and then what? What's it like?
Okay, well, this is where I get lucky. So a lot
Okay.
of the events in Canada are literally an hour, 10-minute drive from my house.
Perfect.
So when we go down to Starks in Port Rowan, where the Canadian Nationals has been held for I don't know how many years in a row now, probably going on a dozen, I can sleep in my own bed. So literally no issue. Pack everything the night before. It's a seamless day. There's not a lot of hiccups. There's not a lot of the preparation, the mental side, the eating. That's all pre-planned, pre-set up. So that's fantastic. So that part of it's easy. If we want to talk about on the road, Golf Channel, World Championships, totally different animal.
All right, let's do it. Let's hear it. I want to hear that, definitely.
So that's where it gets a little okay. I mean, you're hitting 5 rounds against the best players in the world just to get to the next day. You have to score to be in the top half of that every time. So, I mean, you're on the road. You're in middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, where there's a huge casino. This was past tense. This won't happen anymore. They moved venues. Everything's changed. But we'll just talk about it as if it was still the last event that I did.
Sure.
You're hitting all day. It's 100 degrees out. You're trying to stay hydrated, but then you're trying to keep your electrolytes up. Like, you're trying not to over drink water because you're going to flush yourself too much. Like, there's a million things going on. And then you have 3 minutes to hit, at the time, 8 balls. Now we're back to 6 balls, thankfully. And then it's, what goes through your head, it has to go blank. Thankfully, everything's white noise at that point. When you get up on the tee box, we can talk about what happened when I got on TV, which wasn't white noise anymore. So when you're up there, you guys don't hear it. It's because you guys don't see the qualifying rounds, but it's family, friends, and fans are essentially who's there, and it's people cheering you on, essentially.
Of course.
And music blaring.
Yeah.
So that's the white noise, right? It's not a first tee shot where everyone's quiet and there's officials holding quiet signs. It's people making as much noise as they can. Grid's clear, play away, and you let her buck and hope for the best, essentially, is what happens. You try not to look up too many times and see what everyone else is doing, but if you hit a good one, you look up, you sure hope it's past the other guy's numbers, and it's an adrenaline rush. Like, it's nothing. Like, I've been in a lot of situations growing up playing hockey. Last guy on the ice, needed to score a goal, blah, 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 penalty shots, it's that nothing's close.
Right.
Nothing I've ever compared in my life has even been remotely close to the adrenaline we get up on that tee box.
Yeah, there are a few things more terrifying than the first tee. So I can't imagine that being like amplified or magnified, and you're standing in front of like a bunch of fans. And like I've seen, obviously, like I was a big fan of long drive, like Jason Zuback back in the day. Like everybody loved watching those events, right? And he's like pumping up the crowd, but it probably took him a while to get to that point. Like I'm thinking about this one time right now. I was playing in high school and I had like a really good first round. It was a 2-day event, the Ontario Championship, something like that. And I shot like a low round, like a 73 4 or something the first day, and it was so I was in the second to last group. Lots of people had already finished for the day, and like I just like absolutely duck hooked my first drive, and like I on the first round I had actually made an eagle on this hole, and I made a 9 on the second day as par 5. So it was yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like to like that was just with a lot of people in high school watching golf. I can't imagine what it would be like, cameras, lights, and everything.
Well, and it's so I mean, this is where it gets a little so. You get 6 nuggets, right?
Yeah.
At the time, it was 8 for that year for whatever reason. And so I go into the first set, and I have no expectations. This is my first year and a half back. You know, I only qualified 2 months ago. I put some work into it, but I hadn't gone crazy. And so I'm just like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. I'm hitting it really good. Whatever. First 8 balls, OB, 0 points. I'm sitting there like, okay, well, now I got to dig myself out of this goddamn hole. So then I get up there and I don't know what happened. Something clicked, but the next set I hit, I think 4 out of my 8 balls over 390, and I only needed 386 to win. So I just kind of was like, and the guys I was against were, I remember Josh Koch, Wes Patterson, and the champion guy Tomoshiro Nikigara from Japan. So like 3 out of the 4 of us ended up in the final 16. So I kind of was like, okay, well, if I beat Josh and I beat Wes that round, I can hold my own because Wes has been to the finals. Josh made TV round. Like, you know, I'm there. So the confidence just kind of, it blew up after that round. I don't know how or why. Nothing. My swing didn't change, but I started finding the center of the face a lot more.
Yeah. Man, that's like at the start of this podcast, about a month back or so, I had a golf rapper on. His name's Rory Blackleroy. Such a good name. So one of his songs and what we use as the intro here is called "That's Golf, Bro." So like that's golf, man. Because like you don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, but yeah, that's just how golf works, right?
That's just, yeah, like it was, and it carried all week until that lovely final round of 16 on TV where I just shit the bed.
Yeah, so that round is it? You get 8 nuggets for that round as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where everything changed. So like this is the hard part to describe to people, right? Like now you're getting called up during commercial break. There's no more live music because they need to be quiet for television.
Right.
It's basically now it's that first tee shot.
Yeah.
Now it's like that pin drop and no one's saying anything and you're trying to like stay out of your own head because you've been watching everybody else. And I was the last group to go. Like me and Tim were the last ones to go out of everybody. And so now I'm sitting there like, okay, like 2-time world champion, ranked number 2 in the world, at least put a ball on him.
Yeah.
And no, we didn't.
No, it didn't. Well, that's all right. That's all right. So that was 2019, you said?
Yeah, that was 2019.
Okay,
that was my like, okay, we're back. We're here. We're better than we've ever been.
Awesome.
Let's see where we can take it.
So that's a top 16 though. That's top 16 in the world, man. So that's pretty impressive. The following year, you come out and you win the 2020 Canadian Long Drive Championships, which is pretty amazing. So I was looking up a couple things. So you've got in contest furthest drive is 416. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So do you hit many over 400? Like I know you said you had touched 390 a few times, or is that one just like you just caught it like this podcast called On the Screws? Did you just catch it on the screws? You know what I mean?
That one I did catch. That was back in this is how Finkel this sport is. That was back in 2011 in Illinois. Okay. And it was last ball to win an event and to beat a world champion, well now world champion. But yeah, like that ball was perfect. I wasn't, and this is where again we'll get into it, but I wasn't the fastest guy like back then. Like I had a golf swing, you know, I played decent golf for a long time, like not good, but like I kicked it around, you know, 1 to 2 handicap for a while. And so I had a good golf swing as far as that level goes. Yeah. Like I would hit it, I would flush it. Like I never hit it over maybe 205 miles an hour would be like fast for me then, but the spin and launch and everything would just be like perfect. And if I hit it properly, I'd get more roll than almost anybody. Okay. But that was, you know, now it's a little different. I haven't been in an event where there's been conditions that have been overly conducive to hitting it over 400 yards. Even when we were at Worlds that day, I think there was maybe a 4, like Berkshire went 380 in the morning. So
Okay.
I hit the next day in the afternoon, and we were into the threes. I think a couple guys might have touched 4.
Okay, right on.
Later that day. So that's the thing with long drive, and that's kind of where I kind of have a little bit of beef with the indoor stuff, because indoor and outdoor are night and day different competitions.
Right.
Like you won't see professional indoor competitions. Just there's too many things that can happen outside.
Yeah.
That's just, the ground, the bounce. Like we can take 15 balls, drop them beside each other right now, and not one of them, well, maybe one of them will be within 6 inches of the other.
Yeah.
And that's just,
it makes me think, right? Like I watched this video before the WGC match play, and so they had I think there were 64 competitors, so they have them all in like a bucket or something, and they drive by on a drone, they drop them all in the green, all from the same bucket. One ball goes in, it's Abraham Answer, and so like they did it as like to show like maybe he'll win the bracket. It was like a bracket challenge, right? But same type of thing. Like those balls are all dropped from the same area. There's some in the bunker. There's some that roll over into the water. Like I get it. So it's well, and we all see it in a regular golf game too. Like you might feel like you really catch one, and then you walk up and you're like, I don't know. It's like only like 265 or something, but it's like it's in the middle of the fairway. I don't know what happened, but whatever. I'll take it, right?
But whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So let's I want to talk about like actually, before we go on, what would be your furthest non-competition drive? So I'm going to guess that's probably in a simulator. And that was one of the questions we got and I asked you this when I first met you, which is why I reposted this today, but somebody says it today, can this guy even go to a simulator? So, what would be the longest drive that that you have on record?
On a GC quad, on video, because apparently nothing in the world doesn't count anymore unless it's on video.
Of course.
So the longest I have recorded on video was on a GC quad. It was a 430 carry with a 450 total.
Wow.
But that's
yeah.
You I don't want to say you cheat the game,
right?
But it's kind of like Tiger Woods. You cheat the game.
Yeah.
Like you know when I'm on a GC quad, I know what the quad wants to see. I've hit on it so many times.
Right.
So if I can launch it at 15 and a half, spin it at 16 to 1750, ball speed at 218, like I know what's going to happen. It's going to go 430 to 440 in the air. Like that's.
Yeah.
But is that real life? Probably not.
Yeah, they can't account for any wind or anything like that, and yeah.
Air density, moisture, like all the crazy things that Bryson talks about that are. People are like, what's he even talking about? I'm like, no, that's real. Like, that matters.
Yeah. Hey, in that sport, it's real, right? And that's why, there's a few guys, which we can talk about. I got a couple, I grabbed a couple of your stats and compared it to a couple guys on tour, which is really cool. So, but let's talk about what's in the bag. So what's in the bag comes up all the time, every week. I'm talking to a golfer. We talk about what's in the bag. So, you've probably got multiple bags, I'm sure. One full of drivers and then one full of irons and whatnot. So let's round off the the long drive stuff. What would your bag look like?
Okay, long drive. I carry anywhere between a 2.5 to 3.5 degree driver, leaning, and this is all weather dependent. So I mean, weather depends if it's in our face, downwind. Again, all the moisture conditions, all that stuff.
Right.
Down to what type of ball we're using, because that does play a huge difference for us too. So a softer ball, I would probably try to use a little bit of a softer driver, just for the reaction off the face. Anyway, without getting too Bryson on everyone.
Yeah.
So that's essentially all I carry. Like when I'm long drive, that's it, right? It's my long drive sticks.
Right.
They're 48 inches long. I mean, I got them.
They're all 48, yeah.
So like. Just to give an easy example, that's a 48.
I'll definitely, for anybody, anybody.
That's what I play with.
Okay, so anybody listening, go over to YouTube. I'll make sure I post a clip or up on Instagram so people can see the difference because.
I play golf with around a 43 and 3/4 roughly.
Yeah, that's actually what I use right now too. Yeah.
So that's like my long drive bag. The shafts all vary. we measure them in cycles per minute, so CPM instead of like stiff, X stiff, whatever.
Right.
We measure them by number. So Berkshire, for example, most people will know who he is. He plays a really whippy shaft.
Okay.
Probably around 240 CPM. My transition from the top isn't as fluid, I'll say.
Okay.
So I play stiffer. I'm about at 280, 285 CPM. And that's just two different swing styles.
Yeah.
Really. Like, I find myself, I can generate the speed through a little bit more strength likely. To be, he's probably still got me by 2 or 3 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But again, if I went to a 230 or 240 CPM, I might pick up that 2 or 3 miles an hour, but I just don't feel like I'll be as accurate.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
He can be.
Yeah.
Because of his talent level. Well, I'm okay admitting that. That's cool with me.
Yeah. Well, that's the world long drive champion right now, right? So that's and like we were saying earlier, like he's you can tell he looks like kind of a little ball of muscle. Like he's a pretty muscular guy, but like he's not as big as a lot of the other guys that you see, right? But like his ability to, I don't know, just generate that type of torque, like coming through the slot, or I guess a lot of it's in the transition at the top, which I wouldn't necessarily know as much about, but that is, it's crazy to kind of watch that, right? So
his sling, the word being thrown around a lot now is sling system.
Okay.
His sling system is very, very accurate.
Yeah, like and he's got like this like long hair too that goes all the way down his back. That's all his So he's got pretty good game too, right? So he's kind of.
He played D1 golf. He's kind of chasing it back down right now because the long drive world's kind of on it's pretty much hiatus. It's not any big major events.
Right.
But I mean, the kid made money, and now he's gonna chase down what he originally wanted to do. So
yeah, and he looks like he's like, from what I follow on social media and whatnot, he's putting in a lot of work. Which, we had Fareen Samji, who's like a female long drive. She's part of the amateur long drive. So you would I'm sure you'd know Fareen. So she was saying how there's always like a stereotype, right? That like, you're a long drive hitter, but you can't play golf. And then there's guys like James Sadlowski, and like there's players like playing on the Korn Ferry Tour and stuff. And then you see guys like Bryson and Cameron Champ, and like these guys could go and probably change a couple things and come and compete with you, right? So they're able to, and especially last year, Bryson was the first ever golfer to be most strokes gained off the tee as well as on the green, right? So that's never happened in the history, even with Tiger. John Daly. John Daly wasn't the greatest putter, but like that's never happened with any of those like really long players. So it's kind of nice to see somebody put those two together. Everybody's got an opinion of Bryson. I like him. I think he's great for the game. It's a different avenue, and every single podcast we end up talking about Bryson at some point. So obviously he's doing something right.
Like, so it's a topic, right? Like if we were doing this podcast in '97, would we talk about anything but Tiger Woods?
Exactly.
Or 2000. It'd be nothing but Tiger. And, Bryson's moving that needle. He's taking it, and he's saying some things, but that's just who he is, right?
Yeah.
He's very outgoing with what he says, and I think the Masters par 67 is probably going to haunt him for a long time. But
like he's still pretty young too, right? So like those things, and like when you're feeling confident, he's just come off a U.S. Open championship, like where he kind of blew everybody away on Sunday, right? So like. I get it. We all say things that might not be the best things to say, and saying that Augusta plays like a 67 is definitely not the right thing to say. But it's humbled him, right? Like he's paid the price for making those comments, and I think like in 3 to 4 years of Bryson playing a course like Augusta National, which takes guys years to play, because you got to remember, you only get a couple shots. Like when you're an amateur, you don't get a lot of opportunities to play it, right? So there's no more tournament that is like more destructive for golfers on the greens and stuff. So it takes time to learn those kind of courses, and I think he'll get there. Like look at Phil, right? Like and now he's got a few green jackets, and one of the best players at Augusta of all time. So let's talk a little bit about your golf game though. Like, so transition from long drive back into your golf game. What would your bag look like right now? Like, are you playing, you said you got one round in this year so far?
So I mean, I just got a new play driver that I got to put a shaft into. But I like to play really low spin driver stuff just because I swing quite hard. So I got a Mizuno ST 200G that I can kick down to 7 degrees. throw a shaft
Nice.
in that I like, and hopefully the wide open face of it sits well. I played a TaylorMade slider 8-degree up until it broke like over the winter.
Okay.
So I mean the lowest spinning head they've ever made at an 8-degree, which nobody could use because it was just so low spin, was what I really the sweet spot was that big. But
Yeah.
so from there, I mean, I actually still have an SLDR 3-wood that has a crack in it, so I have another Mizuno 3-wood coming just because apparently the same reason.
Yeah, I've really looked at the Mizunos this year, like the STX and the STZ. Like I've been looking at those. Like I'm still playing the M6, TaylorMade M6. Not still, it's only a couple years old, but
Right.
but I'm definitely looking to I don't know. I'm not like a brand. Like I'm not specific to any brand, so like I don't mind going to get a fit, and like I'll take whatever works best for me. So, like I know I've hit the Mizunos, and I'm looking forward to kind of getting things open, trying to clean up the bag a little bit. But so are you playing I'm gonna take a guess. So before you get to it, I'm gonna take a guess that you don't even play a 5-wood or a hybrid. No, okay, all right, yeah. So I just kind of guess that like you're probably hitting like a UDI or something, or a utility iron, or even a 3-iron. You're probably, know. So
I got an old, what is it, Shrixon 585.
Yeah. I've got them right up here. One of the heads right up here behind me. So
yeah. I mean that's my quote unquote driving iron. I got to cut down to about a 4-iron lengthwise, but that's my. I don't play a long course. Like I play at Galt Country Club, which is only about 6,500 yards.
Right.
So I hit a couple drivers around, but a lot of it's placement shots on an old Stanley Thompson design course that's just trees on each side. If you're going to miss it huge so you can be in another fairway and come back over, or don't miss.
I've heard, like I play a couple weeks ago I had a friend of mine, Chef Mike, but he's at Court, and I've heard like they're both highly ranked courses in Canada, and I've heard that they play pretty similar. Like they're both Stanley Thompson designs, thin fairways, kind of like like a short Parkland style course. So that's kind of like being a member there. I wonder, as you being like a long drive champion, like that would be such a bizarre thing for you at times, I'm sure, but
it's great. Like the membership there's great. People are great. The biggest reason I joined was access to the quad. That was, and they don't have a range, but they have a net.
Right.
And I can basically hit balls into the net as long as I don't hit them through it all the time, which we just joke about now. They're totally cool with it. But because there's nowhere else I can really go in Kitchener to practice.
Yeah.
Like besides the indoors, and at points. I work in real estate, and my brokerage that I used to work at was literally 5 minutes from Galt Country Club, so I could swing out after lunch, hit some balls, maybe sneak in a 9 if I got nothing to do, and then before I come home. But now, with the way it all sets up, I can basically grab a quad. They let you rent it for $10 or 50, whatever it is. I don't even pay attention. I can take it for the hour. I can hit drives, get my numbers, and I've used it enough now where I don't fully need to see the ball in the air to know what's happening. I've hit 10,000 plus drives in my life, so I don't need to see every ball go through the air. I can tell what happens when it comes off the face. So that was a big kicker of why I went there, because that net, it was either that or drive to Burlington to T-Zone an hour each way whenever I wanted to practice, which they're great. They don't care if we bomb balls over the range, but it's just that drive down the 401 at the wrong time of the day isn't always an hour.
Punishing, man. So like I know when you and I mentioned this earlier, so when you and I got connected, I said to you, like, what's it like when you call up a simulator and you're like, hey, like I want to rent a space, but like, look, man, I just want to give you a heads up, like this is my type of like golf swing, right? So, and I'm sure like you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. This guy's probably like a joke, or what kind of meathead is telling me this, and then you show up and so like the question I got today on Instagram was, can he even hit at simulator? So like, tell me about there's got to be a couple experiences. Tell me about one. Like,
what? Honestly, it's happened outdoor more than indoor.
Okay,
Indoor, it draws a little bit of a crowd here and there.
Yeah.
Depending on the simulator, right? Because they all read different. They all sound, depending on how the screen is set up. I haven't broken one, so that's good. I've never put a ball through one, so the quality of them is getting a lot better. But yeah, most indoor places have been great. Like I have literally zero complaints. The country club asked me to kind of rotate from one side to another every
Of
time I
course.
go, just so I don't bang the
Yeah.
screen out too badly, which is understandable, and I got no problem doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, outdoor, that exact thing, right? It's, you ask, hey, well, how long's the range corner to corner? Just because that's me, so that's where I'm gonna ask to go.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't worry about it. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I walk
Like,
over
don't
to the
worry
front.
about it, buddy. It's 350. You're gonna be fine, or whatever. Yeah.
So I walk over, I laser it to the tree. I'm like, okay, it's about 360 to the top of that tree. Okay, well, I asked. I did my due diligence. I was polite about it. I don't walk in and, I'm this person. This is what I do. The less attention I draw, the better, because as soon as I start hitting balls, it's usually the attention comes then anyways.
No, man, I can tell that even just from like a half an hour chat here. Like, you're a pretty humble guy, man. And golf's kind of, I don't know, there's so much about like the long game and whatnot, right? So it's refreshing to see, and there's only so much you can do, right? If you're gonna go out and you're gonna hit the ball 380 or whatever, you did your due diligence, like you said, right?
Yeah. So yeah, like indoor, they've been awesome. Like any place I've been around my area, shout out to all of them. They've all been great.
All right.
The way where Far goes, Faraway Greens in Burlington, they've always been awesome.
Yeah.
It's just people, once the people realize you're not going to break their stuff, they're actually cool with it, because you bring in your buddies, we sit down, pitchers a triple bogey, let's have a good time, rent it for a couple hours, have some nachos. We spend a lot of money, and the owners love it. Like,
of course.
What's the big deal?
Well, and I'm like anything too, there's a draw. Like when we're seeing Bryson at like the API, like the Arnold Palmer, like crushing balls over the lake and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's exciting, man. Like, golf is kind of like gotten stuffy and boring, and like it's starting to become like cool again. I feel like I say that every podcast, but it is like finally becoming cool again. And part of that is like Bryson in the long drive. Like, people might not think he is cool, but what he is doing is cool. And like, I don't know, I love it, man. So I'm just gonna give anybody listening kind of a little idea. So I did a couple of comparisons here, and you've got a club head speed of a little bit over 150, like you were mentioning, right? Typically, like when you're at your peak and whatnot. So to give you a comparison, the fastest one recorded last year on tour was Bryson at 137. So you're about 15, miles per hour faster than that. Cameron Champ, one of my favorite golfers, probably the most efficient golf swing of all time. Like, it's just so clean. Like, I love it. He had the fastest average at 132. So, you're talking 20 miles per hour faster with your swing to the average tour, the fastest PGA Tour average, right? So, getting into
It's so good though.
What's that?
That swing he's got so good though.
Oh man, like Cameron Champ's swing is. There are like it kind of like looks like almost I think I've compared it to like a Rory McIlroy and a Tiger Woods. Like, it's so clean and smooth. He gets his hands so high. Like, I love it. I could watch him swing a club all day. So getting into the ball speed, you're right around like 225 or give or take a couple miles per hour, somewhere in there. So again, Bryson had the fastest recorded speed last year of just under 200, 199 and a couple points there, and Bryson had the fastest ball speed average at just under 192. So that's where like the difference is that ball speed, like the way it comes off for you. I guess you would, that would be a lot of equipment and stuff, and also the way that how your swing works and whatnot, that makes that big difference. Because that was obviously the club head speed's a lot, but it seems like that doesn't always translate to like what happens with the ball, and your ball is coming off the club a lot hotter, right? So
that's basically the easiest way to get faster ball speed is drop loft. Okay. So if you drop your loft, Bryson, which everyone's seeing now, he's playing a very low lofted compared to everybody else driver that they're talking about banning anything under 8 degrees because it's working.
Yeah.
That's the simplest way, because I can swing my 44 and 3/4 inch driver around 145, 146 on a TrackMan. I've kicked it to like 147, 148. But the ball speed between that, 8 degree, 9 degree, and my 3 degree is literally between a 10 and 15 mile an hour difference.
Right. So Ryan, what would that equate to in distance? Like in average, so that 15 yards there, what would you say in an average distance, if you could tell, an average golfer like myself?
So on course, hitting it while playing, it's probably about a 40-yard difference.
Wow, man.
Because like I'll play my play driver and I'll hit a good one, probably about 350, 360, without going crazy at it. And then if I do the same thing with like my long driver, which is a different swing, it's not the same
Right.
swing. But if I was just to come out and try and do the same thing, and I put the same swing on it, hit it flush, and all conditions being equal, it'd probably be 40 yards further, give or take.
Okay.
Depending on how it runs out and everything like that, because I have to, on a 3 degree, I got to hit up on it a bit more. The spin will come down, so I got to float it more. Blah blah blah. So there's just different impact dynamics that need to happen to swing the two. Even if they were the exact same length, I would still have to change the impact a lot.
Right.
From, like my play driver, I hit maybe 1 to 2, 3 degrees on the up, where my long driver, I'm 8 to 9 on the up to get the same launch conditions.
Yeah.
Because, if you have an 8 degree, you put 2 up, you're at 10, but it's going to spin more, so you got to equate for that. Whereas a 3 is going to spin less, so you got to launch it. This is where the Bryson comes in.
Yeah, see, I was just about to say, for any listeners, Bryson is not that crazy. Like, this stuff actually does work to hit the ball further, right? So,
yes.
So you've done like some personal training. Like I want to have a little transition because a friend of the podcast, Chris Bailey, was on last week. Awesome musician. So anybody listening, go check out his music if you like country music. And so he asked about swing speed. So he's a pretty big guy, like pretty big, strong guy. So I feel like this would be something that you could definitely lend a lot of our listeners using your personal training background. What would be your favorite exercise that you do for adding club head speed?
Geez, it depends, and this is where I have to get Bryson technical again.
Okay.
Just because it's very person dependent
Right.
on how that person is built and structured. So if he's a taller guy, bigger guy,
Yeah, he is,
lankier limbs, stuff like that, I would just get him swinging faster. It sounds silly, but there really wouldn't be a gym routine that would make him faster, because he's already really athletic and really fit.
Yeah.
It would be teaching him how to use the ground through pressure in his feet in order to produce the swing speed that he needs. But that's essentially taking it through this, like if you've heard the super swing or the speed sticks.
Yep.
It'd be taking him through certain drills on which ones would benefit him the best with those. Because that's, when people ask, how do you hit it further? Well, you got to swing faster. There's really no other way around it.
Yeah, of course.
You got to center punch it and hit on the screws. And literally, you got to swing faster. There's no other crazy dynamic. Like, you can get into your launch conditions, your spin rates, and all that. But if you max those out, well, then there's only one thing left, and that's just pure speed. And there's only one way to train for speed, and it's with speed. So, a guy like that, I could, just give him a club and be like, hey, your intent, here's a little monitor, those little swing speed radars, the blue and red ones that they sell. Now make that number go up every time.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really, for me, and this would apply to almost anybody trying to pick up and gain distance, is the intent behind the training. So it's just like when we're trying to hit a putt, one ball or 1/4 cup just to the right. Well, we're going to sit there and do it. We're going to try and figure that putt out, right? And we're on the practice green. Well, when you're swinging for speed and trying to get faster, you literally have to look at that number and try and make it grow all the time. Like,
yeah, do different things. Yeah, you got to do different things with your body and whatnot. And like, for him in general, like for him specifically, he's been a competitive CrossFitter for like 10 years or something. So yeah. We all have something where if we're listening to this podcast, we're golfers, all of us. Yeah. And, we have some physical ability that we would be able to understand our bodies and try to figure out how to make things go faster. Right. So
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm kind of understanding like what you're saying. You can't just tell me like there's no magic pill I can take to make me swing like you. I'm 5'10", you're 6'3", like we were comparing before, just joking around. I got these T-Rex arms and you got, I got, you got these massive arms. Yeah. So like we were saying, like when I'm kind of, doing some bodybuilding and whatnot, I might be able to, you're probably 50 pounds heavier than me, but I might be able to bench press the same as you, but my range of motion is much different, right? So there's always going to be a different swing type for everybody. Kind of like we said with Cameron Champ, right? Gets so high his hands get so high, and that's how he generates all that club head speed. So
absolutely. And that's, someone like Chris, it would just be, okay, this is how it's produced. Now, this is how you need to feel in order to produce it.
Yeah.
And that's a big click for, right? Like, people get so, because I get questions about speed all the time, right? Yeah. And I've tried to simplify it as much as I could for myself, because I get off on these all over the place.
You got to put the lab coat on, and yeah.
And so I'll go through trial and error phases to see what happens, to see what works. I've overtrained, I've undertrained, I've pushed myself too hard, because that's a huge part of this is neuromuscular connection training, which I know that sounds like a little bit, but it's letting your brain know you can do it.
Right.
So, it took me a year and a half to almost 2 years once I started getting back into long drive to get to that 220 mile per hour ball speed mark. But now that I know I did it, it's so much easier if I take time off to get back there. Like, right. The road to get back is so much shorter, only because I know I can do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that first time, you broke par, or, you broke 80. You might not do it every time.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get doing it. And that's, eventually how we get faster and how we get better at playing the game.
Look, Ryan, like I got a hole-in-one with my mom with the course marshal watching when I was like 13.
So okay. You peaked early.
So I don't know if your theory, because I have not been able to get back to that point. I've gotten pretty close a couple times. I hit the pin actually last year on a par 3, but I have not been able to get back to that point. So
okay, well, there's loopholes around every rule.
There's exceptions to every rule. That being one of them. That's why guys like Tiger Woods have 20 of them, because he can make that happen, right? So. But
percentages, right? Tiger Woods has hit 2 million more golf balls than you have.
Yeah, that's true. So, and that's only in tournament too. So he's probably got even more on there. So
I can imagine.
But you mentioned Farine, so I'm playing in a tournament with her in July. So my buddy Curtis, I don't know, he might listen to this podcast. He's an elevator mechanic. He drives into work. He's gonna play in the tournament with me, but I think I was gonna see if you're available for a scramble, because you would be the perfect scramble partner, man. So I'm a great wedge player. I'm a well above average putter. I'm not a good long iron player at all. That's my stone cold weakness. Not even that bad off the tee, but we could put a pretty good team together here, I think, man. So
set it up.
But
let me know the dates.
So sorry, Curtis, you're out. Kirk and Chef are still in for now, but Curtis is out. Sorry, man. I'll send you the EMT back shortly. But so you're a realtor. You're a busy guy. I know you get a pretty flexible schedule, which is great. You get out to golf and whatnot. But anybody who's looking to connect with you, it was really easy for you and I to chat. Anybody who might have some questions, where can they reach you? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, golf-related fitness stuff, Instagram. My handle's been Ryan Gregnol Fitness forever.
Anybody watching on YouTube, it's
changing it a bunch of times, but
yeah. Anybody watching on YouTube, it's kind of right below them here. So
yeah, that's probably the easiest way.
Okay.
Hit me up on there, and then we can connect further if you'd like. I'm pretty chill about stuff, but I'm gonna pretty much tell you like it is too.
Yeah. No, and that's good, man. We all need to hear that, right? So it's just kind of part of the game, right? And
yeah.
So
I'm not a golf coach. I'm not gonna ever say I'm a golf coach. No, I can't give you golf lessons. There, I said it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So what's
that's it.
What's the year looking like for you? Before I let you go, what do you got? Well, we're in lockdown right now. We're shut down, or whatever you want to call it. Don't like to get into any of that political stuff, but say we get back to normal after this. Hopefully everything works out. What's going on with you for the rest of the season?
Well, there's a couple events later on in the year that hopefully we can still make happen. There'll be the Canadian Championships. That's Labor Day weekend, regardless, every year.
Right.
And then there's potentially a world, we'll call it World Championship for now, third week of September in Nevada, back in Mesquite where we used to do it.
Okay.
So hopefully if things open up, and then there's another independent event back in Oklahoma that I got an invite to. So if everything pans out, I'd love to do more. Like the guys in the States are literally doing something every month.
Yeah.
Like they're competing every month. So it's really hard for me just to sit at home and watch the live stream and like not be there. And especially like with the training I put in and kind of like I've peaked and now I'm kind of on a deload. I mean, I treat it the exact same as lifting. You peak and you deload. That's pretty much the way it works.
Yep.
So yeah, like we have an event planned for, I think it was July 10th, if that's a Saturday of that weekend.
Okay.
Somewhere around that time. But that's all going to be dependent, I think, on the borders.
Yeah.
Because it was going to be a big PLDA, which is the new association that took over from Golf Channel, and now that Golf Channel's out. They were going to come up and kind of host an international event with the guys that host Canadian Nationals every year, Rick and Bill. So, I mean, I'm hoping I can still get 3 or 4 in. Besides that, I mean, playing some golf tournaments, probably try and play in the Club C's again this year. I don't know.
Right on.
That's really all I got. We're working with what we got. We're going to train as if, you know, we got events still once we're allowed again. These shutdowns have actually been like really good for my long drive because I get to the point where I'm like beat up and broken.
You got to take the break, yeah.
Then we get a shutdown and I'm like, oh, this sucks. But at the same time, my body is like, I love you.
Yeah.
Can you do this to me more often? I'm not going to my physio every week and then my massage every other week because I don't have to right now. But that's a whole nother part.
No, that's great, man. And obviously the housing market is booming right now, so I'm sure you're you're busy with that. So.
It's not great for everybody, but it's let's just say there's a lot of disappointing nights and there's a lot of happy nights. So.
Of course, right? And like anything, it's, you know, there's going to be plenty of families that find that dream home that are going to be happy and plenty that don't. So I've like, you know, my wife and I, we've sold and bought and it's you know, it's an experience, that's for sure. It definitely is. So
it's especially in these times, it's something.
Yeah.
Without getting too crazy about it, it's something.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time through your busy schedule, kind of sharing, you know, the world of professional long drive, because it is something that is so foreign to me, but it is fascinating, and I think a lot of us golfers right now are fascinated by the long game. So thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back.
And so again, it's Ryan Gregnol Fitness at Instagram. So anybody looking to kind of check out some of you, like you've got some simulator drives there and stuff, like it's pretty cool. So go check it out. And of course, On the Screws podcast, On the Screws Golf podcast on YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts, I'll have this up on Friday. So really appreciate it. Do you have any predictions? Can I get you any predictions for this weekend before you go? I just picked, it's like the Zurich Classic. It's a 2-man event. So I'm going to say you're probably going to pick Finau and Champ. Like they're a team. Okay. Yeah. So like they're my guys. Like they're 2 of my absolute favorite golfers, like I said earlier, but I'm going with Xander and Cantlay this weekend. So they're kind of,
I got to go with Tony and Cameron. They literally like pointed at each other and they're like, we're the Send It crew. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like I got it. I like them both already. And Tony has a cousin that actually competed in long drive for many years. Yeah. So that was kind of another neat thing that we knew about Tony before Tony actually came about. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I got to go with them.
Absolutely. It would be hard to respect you as a long driver to have those 2 like premium ball strikers and you pick somebody else. So that's really cool. So I'm looking forward to that event this weekend. And again, thank you so much, Ryan. Let's do it again sometime. This was awesome.
Absolutely.
Is out in my ball in the course where I tee up. I lose the ball and I re-up. I miss a fairway, I probably end up in the ocean or maybe the beach. And I'm on a par 5 and I'm finna go reach it. Second was blind, I ain't see it. Feel like it might be an albatross.